Hey there, and welcome back to Learn Conversational English, the podcast where we just talk like real people do. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jim. Hey everyone, really glad you're here with us today.
Just a quick note for anyone new. Welcome. This podcast is for people learning English who want to hear how it actually sounds in real conversations, not textbook English, just two people talking naturally about everyday stuff. And both Jim and I are Canadian, so you'll hear some Canadian references come up. We'll explain them when they do. Standard North American work environments. So yeah, plenty of material to work with.
Today's topic is one of the most useful things we've covered, I think, because it's not just about English. It's about how English is used in a very specific context.
Yeah. So today we're talking about indirect communication, specifically in the workplace, in a kind of Western corporate English setting. And we're calling it the politeness paradox.
The politeness paradox. The idea is pretty simple. In a lot of professional English environments, people say one thing but mean something completely different.
If you're learning English or new to a corporate environment, this can be genuinely confusing. You could sit in a meeting, everyone seems perfectly calm and nice. You walk out thinking everything is fine, and it is absolutely not fine. And it's funny, growing up in Canada, you'd think we'd already be pretty good at this. Canadians are known for being polite, right?
Oh, for sure. It's not wrong. Growing up in Ontario, if you accidentally bumped into someone, you both apologized simultaneously. Both said sorry at the same time and then laughed awkwardly. Classic. And in some ways, we're pre-trained for corporate politeness culture. But even for us, the workplace version can get really layered. There's polite, and then there's corporate polite, and they're not the same thing.
Regular polite is just being considerate, saying please and thank you. But corporate polite has this whole other layer. It's almost like a second language inside the language.
A second language inside the language. That's a really useful way to think about it. You might speak excellent English grammatically, but this is the next level, understanding what people actually mean versus what they literally say.
And there's actually a term for this. It's called, high context communication. Have you talked about that one before, Jim?
Let's talk about it. High context communication. Context means the situation around the words, the relationship, the setting, the tone, the history between the people talking. All of that is context.
In high context communication, a lot of the real meaning isn't in the words themselves. It's in the tone of voice, the pause before someone speaks, even what they choose not to say. The listener is expected to understand the context and fill in the gaps.
Compare that to low context communication. Say exactly what you mean clearly and directly. Those two styles can really clash in a workplace.
Modern corporate culture in English-speaking Western countries has landed in this interesting middle zone. Officially, people act direct and professional. But in practice, there's a lot of indirect, high-context language.
The reason is keeping the peace. There's this idea in modern workplaces of maintaining team cohesion, keeping the team working well together, the atmosphere positive, avoiding conflict.
Team cohesion is a good phrase to know. If you hear someone say, "I want to maintain team cohesion," they're basically saying, let's not have conflict. Let's keep things friendly on the surface.
That sounds good, right? But when you prioritize harmony over actual honesty, you get this weird situation where nobody says what they actually think.
And that's the paradox. The more polite and harmonious a workplace tries to be on the surface, the more confusing and actually dishonest the communication can become underneath.
I was catching up with a colleague recently who told me about a situation at her job. She'd presented a project idea in a meeting, and her manager said, "That's a really interesting approach." She thought, great, the manager likes it. So she spent 2 more weeks developing it, putting together slides, doing research. Then her manager shut the whole project down at the next check in. She was genuinely shocked.
And she shouldn't have been shocked if she knew the code. Because that's an interesting approach in corporate English, usually means, I don't like this idea, or at least, I'm not convinced. It's a way of not saying no directly, but still signaling doubt.
Exactly. And she had no idea because on the surface, interesting is a positive word, right? Like in everyday English, if I say, your haircut is interesting, maybe that's a little ambiguous. But in a meeting with that particular tone, it's basically a soft rejection.
So let's actually go through some of these phrases because I think for our listeners, this is probably the most useful part. Like, let's build a little decoder. A decoder is like a tool for understanding hidden messages. So, Jim, you want to start? What's one of the classic ones?
Okay, so the one I just mentioned, that's an interesting approach, or that's an interesting idea. What it sounds like, the person is engaged, maybe even impressed. What it usually means, I have doubts, or I don't agree, but I don't want to say so directly in front of everyone.
Good one. Another one I hear all the time is, I'll take that on board. So, on board, that's a nautical expression. It originally comes from ships, but in modern English it just means received or noted, and it sounds really cooperative, doesn't it? Thanks. I'll take that on board. Very professional. But in practice, it very often means I hear you, I acknowledge you said that, and I am going to do absolutely nothing about it. It's a way of closing a conversation without agreeing. It sounds like agreement, it sounds like action, but it's actually just a polite brush off.
And a brush off, just to explain that, is when you sort of push someone's comment aside. You don't engage with it seriously, you just acknowledge it and move on. And it can be really frustrating if you don't know that's what's happening.
Totally. Okay, here's another one that I think is really common, especially in remote work settings. We should circle back on this. Circle back. That means come back to something later. It's a pretty standard business phrase. But when does it become a red flag?
When no follow up ever happens, like if someone says, let's circle back on this, and there's no concrete plan, no time, no date, no next step, what they usually mean is, I want to end this conversation now, and I'm using future language to do it politely. The circle never actually comes back. And that uncertainty is costly. Not knowing the real status of something can cause you to waste time, hold back on a project, or make decisions based on false information. These little phrases have real consequences. A lot of career stagnation can come from not picking up on these subtle signals, and nobody tells you that's what's happening. The feedback is more like, you need to work on your stakeholder management, or we don't think you're quite ready for the next level.
Stakeholder management. A stakeholder is anyone with an interest in a project or decision. Your boss, your team, a client. Managing them means communicating in a way that keeps them informed and on your side.
If you're not reading the room, understanding the mood and unspoken feelings, you might say something too bluntly or push back in a way that feels threatening rather than constructive. That gets noticed, not positively.
And here's the frustrating part. You might have been completely right. Your point might have been totally valid, but the way it was delivered didn't fit the unwritten rules of that environment. And so instead of being seen as a strong contributor, you get labeled as difficult or not a team player. And no one hands you a rule book. Nobody tells you what these phrases actually mean. You're just expected to figure it out. And if you don't, you feel confused, get passed over, and you don't even know why.
So let's keep going with the decoder because I think this is really practical. What's another phrase you hear a lot, Laura?
One that's really sneaky is, I just wanted to flag this. The word just makes it sound casual, almost like an afterthought. Oh, by the way, no big deal.
But it's not casual at all.
It is never casual. When someone says, I just wanted to flag this, that's a serious problem wrapped in soft language. It could mean the project is in trouble, or there's an error in your work. The just softens the message, but the message is sharp.
Just does this in so many corporate messages. Just checking in can mean I'm getting impatient waiting for your response, or just a quick thought before someone delivers a very long, detailed critique.
And quick in corporate communication isn't always accurate. Can we jump on a quick call? Doesn't necessarily mean quick. It means I need to talk to you, softened so you can't easily say no.
Because I need to have a serious conversation with you sets off alarm bells. But can we jump on a quick call sounds light, casual, even if the content of that call is exactly the same serious conversation.
Why does corporate culture do this? Part of it is genuinely kind. People don't want to cause unnecessary stress or anxiety, so they soften things.
But part of it is also self-protective. If I give you direct negative feedback and you react badly, that's uncomfortable for me. If I wrap it in soft language, maybe you absorb it better, and I avoid the emotional weight of delivering bad news.
Which isn't always good for the person receiving it. If you soften something so much that the person doesn't realize there's a real problem, they can't fix it, and they get blindsided when the consequences come.
That happens in performance reviews all the time. Someone gets a lower rating than expected and says, but no one ever told me there was a problem. Technically, someone did tell them, just very, very softly.
In a language they didn't fully understand yet. And this is why we're talking about it today. Because knowing this stuff, it genuinely changes how you experience a workplace. You stop wondering why things feel off, and you start being able to read the situation more accurately.
Here's a personal example. I was presenting project progress to senior leaders, and one of them said at the end, in a very calm, pleasant tone, I think there's still some opportunity here to refine the approach. Opportunity to refine sounds positive, but what she was actually saying was, this isn't ready. Go back and do it again. A junior team member who'd recently joined from another country walked out of that meeting thinking we'd basically been praised.
She heard the positive framing and missed the critical message underneath.
Her English was fluent, but this performative positivity, framing criticism as opportunity, wrapping bad news in hopeful language, was new to her. It took her a while to recalibrate.
And that's such a common experience. One of the most important skills you can develop is learning to listen for what's not being said. You're listening for absence.
What's missing from the response? If someone presents an idea and the response is 5 sentences of general positivity with not one concrete next step, that absence is actually the most important part of the message.
Versus, if someone really likes something, they usually start asking questions. They want details. They say things like, okay, what would the timeline look like? Or, who do we need to involve in this? Those are signs of genuine interest. Engagement, the absence of those questions, is also a signal. Another classic is, we'd love to get your input on this. It sounds like they really value your opinion and want you in the conversation.
Sometimes that's genuinely true, but sometimes, and this is the tricky version, it means the decision has already been made and we're bringing you in at the end to make you feel included, or to tick a box, like, yes, we consulted the team, but the outcome was never really going to change based on what you said.
There's actually a term for this: performative consultation. Done for appearance. Not because your input is genuinely wanted. You give your thoughts, and 2 days later, the original plan goes ahead exactly as it was.
And how do you know if it's genuine or performative? One hint is how early in the process are they asking. If they involve you at the very beginning, when things are still open, that's a good sign. If they bring you in when everything is basically done and just needs a signature, that's more likely performative.
That's a really good way to read it. Okay, what about some of the more, I don't know, gentle sounding criticism phrases? Like the ones where someone is giving you negative feedback, but it's dressed up to sound like encouragement?
Oh, the constructive feedback sandwich. So, this is an actual technique that a lot of managers are taught. It's called the feedback sandwich. You start with something positive, then you put the criticism in the middle, then you end with something positive again. The criticism is the filling, and the positive comments are the bread.
And the intention is kind. It's so the criticism doesn't feel like an attack. But the problem is, a lot of people hear the first positive thing and relax, hear the criticism and maybe half absorb it, and then hear the final positive thing and feel fine. And they leave without really understanding how serious the concern was.
So, if you're in a feedback conversation and someone starts with, "I really appreciate your dedication and hard work on this project," pay very close attention to what comes next, because that's actually where the real message is. The opening is just the bun.
The bun. I love that. And then there's a phrase that I genuinely find kind of funny, because it's so obviously a soft insult, but people say it with a completely straight face. That was a brave choice. Aid.
Oh, that one is, yeah. Brave choice is a masterpiece of passive negativity. Brave sounds like a compliment, right? Brave means courageous, daring. But in a professional context, that was a brave choice almost always means that was a risky decision that I think was probably wrong, and I'm saying brave so I don't have to say wrong.
Ambitious works the same way. That's a very ambitious timeline, sounds enthusiastic, but often means there's no way you're finishing this on time.
Yes, in real life, ambitious is a totally positive word. But in corporate speak, ambitious attached to a plan or timeline is usually a polite warning, polite skepticism.
Creative can do the same thing. That's a very creative interpretation of the brief, might mean you went off track and did something we didn't ask for.
So basically, any word that sounds like it could be a compliment but is delivered in a flat, measured tone with a slight pause before it, treat it as a signal to pay closer attention. The pause is key. If there's a little pause before the positive sounding word, that's often where the doubt lives.
To be clear, we're not saying this is a good system. Ideally, people would just say what they mean. There are workplaces where direct communication is valued, and they tend to be high performing, but they're not the norm. Until you're in one, you need to navigate the system as it is.
Navigate the system as it is. And one practical way to do that is when you receive one of these indirect messages and you're not sure what it really means, it's actually okay to ask a clarifying question. Politely, of course. Like, I want to make sure I understand your feedback. Is there a specific area you'd like me to focus on?
Asking for specifics is very effective. It sounds professional, not aggressive. Instead of, "What do you actually mean?" you say, "I want to make sure I've understood you correctly." That's collaborative. It shows you're paying attention.
And another thing you can do is reflect back. So if someone gives you vague feedback, you can say, just to confirm, are you saying you'd like me to take a different direction on this? And that forces them to either confirm or clarify. It gives them a chance to be more direct if they want to be, in a low pressure way.
Reflect back. Repeat or paraphrase what someone said to check your understanding. It's a classic technique used by therapists, teachers, and good managers. It works in both directions, to understand others and to make your own communication clearer.
There's an important distinction between being indirect and being unclear. A skilled communicator can be tactful, careful about how they say things, and still be clear about what they mean.
Good indirect communication might sound like, I wonder if there's a way to simplify this section. You understand the action needed, even though it's delivered gently. Bad indirect communication is when the listener walks away with no idea what they're supposed to do next.
Right. The test is, after receiving the communication, do you know what to do? If yes, even if it was delivered gently, it worked. If you have no idea what was expected of you, the communication failed, regardless of how polite it sounded.
It is absolutely learnable. And that's kind of the whole mission of this show, right? Every episode, we try to pull back a little bit of the curtain on how English is really used in everyday life and in professional settings, so that our listeners can feel more confident navigating those spaces.
And it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving, right? Like, once you start to understand these patterns, you can also start to use them. You can communicate in a way that feels natural and fluent to your colleagues. And that opens doors. It builds trust. It helps you advance.
That's a good place to start winding down. We've covered high context communication, specific phrases and what they actually mean, and practical strategies for navigating it all.
We only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, like how seniority changes the rules, or how AI assistants in 2026 generate polite meeting summaries that make a chaotic, unresolved discussion sound perfectly fine on the record.
Oh, the AI meeting summary that says it was agreed that the team will explore next steps, when the actual meeting was 45 minutes of people talking past each other with no decision made whatsoever. Yes, that's its own episode.
That is its own episode. Okay, so I think that's a good note to end on. There's always more to explore, and we'll be back to keep digging into all of this. But for now,
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really, truly appreciate every single person who listens to this show. Whether you've been with us from the very beginning, or this is your first episode, thank you. It means a lot to both of us.
it really does. And if you enjoyed today's episode and found it useful, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people find the show, and that helps us keep making it. So if you can do that, we'd really appreciate it.
And we'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, keep listening, keep learning, and yeah, talk soon.
See you next time, everyone. Bye for now.